That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The IndyGo war has started. Today was the battle of SB52, part one. And I think we have to talk about how we got here and what's exactly going on and what the big bitch is about. So basically, what had happened was that Aaron Freeman had introduced a bill. This is about dedicated bus lanes, not public transportation, not the BRT, not the CRT, not Indigo, well, Indigo, but it has to do with just the dedicated bus lane on the Blue Line. So it is would place a moratorium on the construction of dedicated lanes for bus rapid transit for the Blue Line, and it calls for a study on the impact of dedicated lanes. And I think that's the most important part is that we want to make sure that all of this is actually making sense. Does the dedicated bus lane actually work? Because a few days ago, Jennifer Prince, who is the now interim CEO of IndyGo, who's probably making 300,000 now, just like Inez Evans before was making $375,000 a year. Thank you, taxpayers. She was on an interview with Abdul Hakim Shabazz about IndyGo and what's going on. And she had bragged about that there was a study that had come out saying that there are less traffic fatalities, which we kind of figured, and there was no reduction in speed. In fact, it was a couple miles per hour more than it was without a dedicated bus lane. But here's the deal. Me and multiple other people wanted to know, where's this study at? Because they were bragging about it on Twitter, but it's not on the page. There's no link to it or anything. So who are we supposed to believe? Is it real? I don't know. Is she telling the truth? I don't know. Is the report biased? Still, I don't know. So today there was a public testimony about SB52 where everybody can talk about it. Last month they had a public testimony about it, and then there will be another one next Tuesday with talks about amendments and everything, which they did talk a little bit about it today. It was about 3 hours of testimony. 60 people had signed up to talk. Only about 50 people did end up speaking because guess what? People have things to do, and a lot of people take forever on the mic. So I didn't get to check the beginning of the introduction of Aaron Freeman and him talking about this bill and kind of where we led up to. I only caught like the last couple of seconds of it because I thought it started at one time, but it actually started at another time. But I did catch the good juicy stuff because Blake Johnson, Kerry Hamilton, and this other guy that lives in East Chicago, I don't know what his name was, and it doesn't really matter. Blake Johnson was asking about an article that had come out from Mirror Indy, or as I call it, Mirror Indy Star. And this journalist Emily Hopkins had brought up about the referendum, about when people voted for it in 2016, because there was this. Aaron Freeman had said that the dedicated bus line was not on the referendum, and everybody kept saying, "He's like, no, look, it was." But they never showed it, and they said, "But we talked about it. It was on. It was about the discussion." And they're right. In the Indigo paperwork and a lot of the articles and the things that people said they were going to vote for, the dedicated bus lane was on there. But, and even Emily Hopkins admitted that it is true that the ballot language did not specifically reference dedicated lanes, but records show there was extensive discussion of dedicated lanes. Yeah, but that's what Aaron Freeman was saying. Well, and even to the point where Blake Johnson said, he's like, did you see this? Did you see this article, Mr. Freeman? And he goes, yeah, but that's what do you call it? Revisionist history or history revision. And it was kind of funny. He's like, listen, I said what I said, and you thought that I said something differently. So I don't know what to tell you there, bud. But they go on to ask more questions about local government control. But here's the thing about local government control. Indianapolis is the capital of Indiana, which I know all of you guys do know. And right now, the people that are running this state are burning it to the ground. So at some point, the state needs to intervene and ask them, it's like, what are you guys doing? Because I had found out last month, because for those who don't know, I'm not from here. I'm from Chicago. I didn't move here until 2011 or 2012. Whenever Andrew Luck got drafted, that's when I moved here that summer. Not because of him, though. And apparently 30 years ago, the state had sold Washington Street to Indianapolis for $10 million. I didn't know that. I mean, that seems like a lot of money. Even 30 years ago for sure, but even now, that's a lot of money. And now there were some talks about the state buying Washington Street because, and I see the biggest difference. I live off of Rockville Road, and everything west of 465 is state road. And when it snowed the other day, completely different when it comes to plowing. That state road was taken care of. Chef's kiss. Well, I was able to get some ice cream with the dog, and I didn't have to worry about hitting into a ditch. It was amazing. But once I passed the 465 of where I live, man, it was shit. Sorry, swear jar. And so, I mean, to Indiana's point, if they got the money to buy it back, they're going to take care of it. But we're going to talk about that because one of the people in testimony actually brought that up. So they were also talking about, Freeman was talking about the former CEO, Mike Terry of IndyGo. I believe he was the very first CEO, said that dedicated lines have no benefit. Dedicated lanes have no benefit, probably lines as well. And which he probably has a very valid point to that because I think dedicated lanes might work somewhere because right now the red line that goes from like downtown to Broad Ripple area that has dedicated lanes, but the west side of Indy is a completely different beast. This is where everybody works. Everybody works on like the west side or downtown. Hardly anybody. There's really no work in Broad Ripple. It's where people live. Same thing with people do work in downtown, but it's much more condensed, and there's not a whole lot of people driving over there. They're usually going into a parking garage and whatnot. But I don't think the dedicated lanes will work on the west side. And for those who don't know, this whole project is going to be going through like Hancock and Hendricks County, where there's going to be a dedicated bus line all the way through. And right now they're talking the from the airport to downtown, it takes an hour with the dedicated bus lane. They're saying that it would take like 25 minutes, but 25 minutes, 30 minutes. But guess what? You could still go get there faster with your car or an Uber. But moving on, uh, they kept asking about the referendum and about the road funding because this road funding would be supported by the federal government, and I believe it's $150 million. And it's a lot of money, but they only get that $150 million if it's a dedicated bus lane. Cool, I guess. But Freeman noted is that there's other mechanisms to get this money. There's corridor-based projects, and you still get funding for shared lanes. Is it going to be the full $150 million? Probably not. But to be fair, like some of this stuff is made up anyway. Last year, I believe they were talking about this whole project being like $500 million, a $500 million. Then all of a sudden, they were able to get $100 million off of it. Well, how did they do that? Did they not have to grease as many palms? Because we know how these union contracts work out. It's like $7 for a nail, $20,000 for a toilet seat, and some of these numbers are just out of control most of the time. And so there's different ways to fund this whole thing. Plus, IndyGo, if you guys did not know, I'm probably going to be making you guys turn more Republican today or make you more libertarian. I'm not sure which one it's going to be, but if you live in Marion County, $70 million of your tax-paying dollars go to IndyGo, but their budget is $250 million. So that means that extra money, the what is it, 180, comes from the state and comes from the federal government. And my biggest bitch this whole time was why can't, like, I understand like public transportation isn't going to make revenue, but for crap's sake, Make it break even or close. That's all I'm asking for. I mean, I think that's what anybody's asking for. We at least want to come close to breaking even because you have these people that are making, $150,000, $200,000. You have Gregory Hahn, who's on the IndyGo board, who is a big, big time Democrat donor. And really, it's about accountability. Like there should be some accountability of when people are consistently able to get on the red line for free. And there was some talk on Twitter from Robert Evans, and he rides the red line a lot, and he has said like nobody's paying to get on the bus. And he's like, well, that's just hearsay. Well, no. Indigo had a report last July about that same thing. They had observers for 3 days, and they saw that only two people out of those 3 days had actually paid to get onto the bus and use it. I mean, those two people might have actually been Robert Evans. Who could say? But he's a veteran, so he can ride for free. So it is what it is. But that's the kind of accountability that we're asking for. Like if you can't fix this thing, then you should be fired, or that money should be taken out of your check, or you people should be removed from the board. Gregory Hahn, you should be removed from the board. You're compromised, pal. And if you're not able to have any kind of accountability, get out. Get out. But moving on, they talked about the road funding and where the money was going to get. Talked about that. Talked about the Washington Street, about how it was sold to Indianapolis 30 years ago. My whole thing is that really Indigo has broken its promise. They had agreed that they were, I think it was last year, they were agreed that they were going to make up some of the money. Like they had to have 10% of whatever their budget is be from revenue. And I don't think fares were on it. So they were trying to have it where Indigo had to raise money, not tax money. I have to double check on that, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. And they really haven't honored their side of the business. So down to the public testimony. For those who have ever done public testimony, you get 2 minutes, sometimes it's 3 minutes, and a lot of the times the chair or the person who's holding it will fluff up the time. But it's really about it's respecting people's time because everybody has somewhere to be, and they don't want to be a dick about it, basically. And if anybody has spoken and they've had that 2 minute marker, it goes by really, really quick. So what I normally do is that I practice. And so I have to speed down, the voice down, and I'm ready to go. And I'm respecting everybody's time because everybody deserves a chance to speak. And that's exactly what the chairman said. It's like I want everybody to speak, but we also have to be considerate of everybody's time. And I go figure. And I think there were maybe like less than half less than a handful of people that had actually gone 2 minutes or under. And whenever they did, Jim Presso is like, "Thank you, thank you. Someone understood the directions." But the majority of the time, it was double. It was 3 times the allotted time, sometimes even more than that. Even at the beginning, they had the first three people, and he was like, "Dude, we've only had three people speak right now, and it's been 20 minutes already, and we got it. We got a lot of people to run through." So the very first person that had spoke was Jennifer Prince, and we knew that she was be fluffing the balls in Vinigo. That's her job. That's what she's supposed to be doing. And then we had the director of Indy DPW. I forgot his name. It doesn't matter. But just to let you know, like I took notes. I didn't write down everything that everybody said. It was more about the high points because otherwise I'm going to have like 10 pages of what everybody said, which would be pointless. I'm just here for the high points. The director of DPW was bragging about the gas tax. That's right. They think that Democrats were bitching about the most last year of how we need to reduce the gas tax. And even Rob Kendall was crying about it because he's actually an op for the Democrat Party. And and he's like, thankfully for the gas tax, we were able to fix some roads. Kind of like what the gas tax was meant to do. I mean, just the hypocrisy, the lunacy. I just don't get it, but hey, this is the world we live in. It's my job to call these people out. Old Witty's on it. The next was Cassandra Crutchfield. And for those who forgot, Cassandra Crutchfield is the mother of Hannah Crutchfield, who back in 2021 was murdered by two maniacs, and nothing happened to them because we live in a clown world and our prosecutor's a piece of shit. But I will have to wait until the recording comes out for today. It usually takes a couple of days to a week, and this was very similar, if not the exact same speech that she did last month. And the reason why I want to go back to the last recording is because, and listen, I'm not trying to be a dick here, I promise. But I think when she starts tearing up and like kind of getting worked up about it, it was almost the exact same time. He's like, well, of course they're thinking of the daughter and whatever. And it's like, yeah, but don't you think it's a little weird? Call me a conspiracy theorist or, get the old tinfoil hat on there. But I don't know. But I will be comparing it when to and if I do find something interesting, I'll post it on here. Just a little weird. I think she's going to be the David Hogg of dedicated lanes or public transportation. If you know who that is, we're in trouble, boys. It's not going to be good. Next was Indy Chamber, and a couple of weeks ago, a lot of businesses were against the dedicated bus lanes. Giacomo, I think like Irvington Wellness and um, Black Sheep, yeah, Black Sheep. And then they got strong armed by Jesse Brown, William Hazen, who's an IndyGo bus driver. Uh, I think I even made a video on it. Nick has thoughts. Cliff Cucliago and all the rest of the East Side Socialists, where they strong armed Giacomo and the rest of the businesses into bending the knee on them to flip their position and showing support for dedicated lanes. That's what socialists do. They are scumbags. They can't be trusted. If you don't bend the knee, they'll probably kill you or ruin your business. So stay strong, everybody. We're on your side. We'll help you out. But they talked about giving loans out to the businesses if they were to suffer because of this. And my very first thought is like, you wouldn't have to give loans if you didn't have this. If this project is bad enough to kill businesses, you should not be having this project. It's really just that simple. I think you have to remember, like, the government does not like you. They have their own agenda, and the higher the ladder that you go, the left and the right means nothing. I mean, really, in the big picture, left and right means nothing. But you have to remember who's on your side, and it's not the government. So basically, what the Indy Chamber is saying is, we're going to beat the crap out of you. Hey, but don't you worry. We will give you a loan with interest to pay your hospital bill. So you will be just fine as long as we get our money with interest, which is such a scummy move. These are the worst kind of people in the entire world, and they can't be trusted. But you know what? They have also a lot of power to the point where when they endorse somebody, it's pretty much a win. They have a 90% win ratio when they endorse you. I think it's been only one person per year that they've endorsed somebody that they didn't win. Last year, it was Natalie Goodwin. They endorsed her because she was running against a 23-year-old kid who has no full-time job, lives with his grandparents, has everything paid for, and really has no idea how life works. I would have endorsed Natalie as well because she's an actual adult that has a family. But moving on, and remember, Indy Chamber is scum. So is Downtown Indy. So is Visit Indy. All those people are scum. The next was Michelle Pleasant, who is I forgot what her husband's name is, but he's an engineer for Business Neighborhood Services, or works for the city, though. It doesn't matter. She was talking about traffic enforcement. That's always been my thing. It's like, why aren't we just enforcing the rules? It's that simple. And she was using her kid as a political tool as well. It was really disgusting. I hate it when people use their children as like, help us, we care. Listen, you were trained for that. It's such a scummy move because you don't even know what's going on, kid. You're just being told by your parents of what to say. The next up there were a bunch of developers that showed up. 1820 Ventures was one of them. The only reason I bring that up is because I believe them, or it was the next developer, they talked about how, if this whole dedicated bus lane doesn't work or doesn't happen, then they can't go through with some of their projects. So Jim Presso, to his credit, he was saying, he's like, well, we've talked about this since like 2021. And as far as I can tell, you're still doing these projects. And the guy that the developer, the guy who was their spokesperson, said, he's like, yeah, but you know what? We can't have the density as you want. And I don't know why you can't, but it was interesting that he said that, because this goes down to one thing. These developers do not care. I think we've all known this, but they only care about what money is going into their pocket. And right now, all this is virtue signaling. They're saying, like, well, we really care about the people. We want to make sure that people can travel, and there's a dedicated bus lane and it's safe and yada yada. No, that we all know. Anybody that's watching this video knows that this is just trying to normalize 15-minute cities. They're just trying to normalize relying on daddy government. They do not want you to have freedom to roam, and unless it's off of something that costs a lot. Like, I love driving around. I like getting to places fast, and guess what? Public transportation isn't going to do it for me. And this is not a knock on anybody that doesn't have their own car. I mean, some people are content with that, and I'm fine with that. Anybody can go and rent a car. A lot of people do that. It's like, I'm ready to get out of the city. I'm going to go down to Brown County, and I'm going to go down there. Like, your life should not be dependent on the government for everything. There are rules to things. And these developers are obviously working hand in hand, so everybody gets a cut of the pie. Remember, it's all handshakes and hand jobs when it comes right down to it. The next person was trust fund baby Andy Nielsen, which usually whenever he talks, I just kind of cut off. It's more like Charlie Brown's mom, or it's like, "Meow, meow, 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 meow." That's basically what he sounds like, and I can't stand it. After that, I mean, there was a bunch of other people, but nobody that brought anything good information on. There were about 10 people, maybe one or more. My feed had cut out for a couple of minutes, and there were a couple of people that I didn't get to listen to, so I wasn't exactly sure. Two of the people were from Builder's Choice First, or Builder's First Choice. It's this construction warehouse supplier over on the west side, and they've been around for a very long time, according to them. And what they were saying is, like, they're against it, not because like they don't want it. It's because if there's a dedicated bus lane, like, their trucks can't get in and out of the warehouse. And they've been around there. I think what he said was like 50 years, maybe even longer than that. I mean, generations of family that have owned this business. And basically, what they said was, if we can't get trucks in and out because of this, we're going to have to move. And they've had this problem, and IndyGo is like literally right next door to them. And so they brought in the big wigs for IndyGo, and they brought in their engineers and everything, and they brought that situation up to them. And it's like, yeah, you know what? It's not going to work. They even admitted to it, but there was no solution to it, which just goes to show you IndyGo doesn't care. They just want their project to go. If they can do the little things, they will. It's like this Mount Rockville project by me. Same issue. We don't want it, but it's going to happen anyway. And they, Builders First said, like, we're going to have to move if this dedicated bus lane happens, which they will. But guess what? This might work in their benefit, because Johnson County and Hamilton County are booming right now in construction, especially Johnson County with Bargersville and Franklin. So, but that's another source that the West Side won't see. That's another source of tax money that the entire of Marion County won't see. And so this whole project is going to make businesses move. Like, the dedicated bus lane will not work. Period. Um, Rachel from RV Indoors, she brought up something that I've been saying for quite a while, is that when you take a lane away, when people are used to having two lanes, they're going to get pissed off, and they're just going to get so wound up. And when they finally get free, they're just going to step on the gas. They're going to put that pipe right in the mouth, and they're going to hit that right foot on the gas pedal. Like, yeah, let's get out of here. And it's just going to turn into road rage, which we know that. We've all been there. I know we've all been there. Um, the next person, let's see. Oh, this one lady was actually kind of based. They were talking about how, there's double, triple the amount of cars now than there were, back in the 70s when 70 was built or 465. And she was like, yeah, because more women are in the workforce. I'm like, oh man, you know what? That's a great point. Um, so this other guy, older dude, he was talking about how Washington Street got sold 30 years ago, and the whole intent was for Indianapolis to fix Washington Street. But instead, they rebuilt Meridian and Binford, and so they didn't have any money left over for that, which I thought was really interesting. It just shows that of how lame the government is, and they're totally fiscally irresponsible when it comes to money. And it didn't really matter who his administration is that it's been in. This is a bipartisan mess up job. They've had 30 years to fix Washington Street, and they haven't. And right now, they're using this as, oh, it's just because we need dedicated lanes. Look at all the infrastructure that we'll be able to do. It's like, dude, you've had 30 years to fix this problem, and now you're holding us ransom. It's like, we're not going to do this unless we get dedicated lanes. No. Hard no. Shouldn't be happening. So the last of it I will conclude is that Jesse Clown Brown was not there, even though he was telling everybody to go up, sign up, speak your voice, and yada, yada, yada. Of course, the socialist head supreme was not there. It's what commies do, though, right? They have everybody else do the dirty work, and they're just going to play administrator. Shocker. One of my theories is that the state is going to buy back Washington. I don't know for how much, but like I said earlier, there is a dramatic difference of who takes care of the roads. The quality from the state is much better than the local government. And, I kind of don't like that, but it is what it is. I wish the locals cared more about their streets and their area. This is just a mismanaged administration that doesn't know what they're doing, and I'm pretty sure they just don't care to fix anything. But that's just what it is. But to conclude all of this whole shebang, next week will be probably the last hearing, and I'm guessing that they'll vote on what to do because right now we're getting close to the end of the session. Aaron Freeman wants this thing to happen. I want this thing to happen, and they're going to listen to public testimony again. It'll probably be another couple of hours, but I really just wish people would stop repeating the same damn thing. Give us a different story, give us something different. It's like, I just don't want it because, dedicated bus lanes are all right, or whatever bullshit that they come up with next. But there will be SB52 Part 2 next week after the testimony, and then the IndyGo War will continue until the next battle. So, thanks for listening. Until next time.